this video, I'm going to show you how I painted the sacred tree from the Joan of Arc game by Mythic. So, as you can see, I primed it with, it's with a gray all over, and then I went from the top, I went with a white, especially on the front little face person, as it'll be pointed out, and on the gems, so that it'll be a little brighter, not as dark. And then I went with contrast paint Wyldwood with a 1-to-1 mix of contrast medium. And you know, it's a tree person. They're real easy and great to paint with these. But I just want to point out a couple of maybe techniques on this that may be helpful. I'm using a large brush. This is a large model anyways, but I want to cover a large area. There's not a lot that I have to work around. So using these large bristled brush is going to, one, save you so much time. It's going to give you a more uniform look, as you'll be able to cover a larger area in a shorter amount of time, so there won't be the drying, there won't be any weird dry lines or what do they call them, coffee marks, stuff like that. So just kind of, I don't want to soak up and get paint into the ferrule or the top part of the bristle. That's just bad maintenance or bad use of your brush. But I'm getting half or 3/4 of the bristles in there into the paint and soaking it up pretty good to cover this area. I also wanted just a technique thing, using washes or a contrast paint or Army Painter's speed paints when they come out. Think about how you're holding the model. Think about how gravity is going to pull or draw the paint down, and you may want to slow that down, just a little bit. So you may want to hold, usually when I'm working at the feet, we'll see if I do it here, I usually turn it upside down and brush from the bottom of the feet up, because I know I'm going to be setting this model down, and it's going to work its way to the bottom, where I brush up, as you can see here, so that it'll, I'm pushing the paint up, and then it's going to, gravity's going to let it work itself down. So as I'm just going through here, and I think I make a few cuts because it's fairly simple what we're doing here, just applying the Wyldwood and contrast medium. Here's another thing I want to point out. Whenever you are mixing the contrast paint with the medium, especially a large quantity, I would encourage you to use, not be drawing the paint directly out of the pot, not sticking your brush into the pot of paint, but put it on a dry palette so that you can kind of have pretty good mixture or ratios, trying to keep it that 1-to-1. If you just applied this Wyldwood paint straight, it's so dark and so rich, you don't get a lot of the contrast properties, flowing off. It's almost like just painting with an opaque paint. So I think I passed at first on painting the front face, which is another little tree person, until later I had some different ideas, but I want to say I'd just come back and paint it with this same Wyldwood and contrast medium mixture. The only things that I'm trying to avoid are like the leafy parts, top of the trees on his back. You can see like the little white thing, and then of course the crystals on his head, because we're gonna try a couple of different techniques to give it like that mystical glowy type effect Now for the trees, I can't say that I totally love the outcome of this. I did use contrast Plaguebearer flesh. It gives it kind of a yellow-green look, which I think is fine. And again, I'm just doing a quick paint job on these to get them on the table so I can play through some scenarios and to help you get your models painted. But I just didn't want to spend a lot of time on these. But you can try different greens, or if you want it to be more of a fall or autumn, you can maybe introduce some oranges in there as well. They are a small part, on the Joan of Arc trees. I've painted those different colors as well, so you can do that. So what I'm doing here, I try to go with it. That's what it was. I went with a stronger concentration of the medium. I wanted it a lighter color so that it stood out. So I went with 1 part Wyldwood to 2 parts contrast medium, just so that it would stand out, because some people may not even recognize or notice the face of the model is a little tree person made of wood. Kind of stands out a little more here, but again, this is just a lot of bark or roots, twisted roots, and it is kind of it's a great model. It looks neat, but there's not a lot of other detail to it. As you can, you look at the card art, there's not much to it. And that's why I'll show you one way to kind of give some of that glow effect in the sacred tree's eyes, and then on the those crystals on his head as well. And you can go, all out on that. Do it how much ever time you want to spend, or you can paint this and come back to it and add to it. I like doing that with my models. Now this step, I don't know if it's necessary. I thought the effect would be a little more dramatic, and maybe it is, but I wanted to introduce some more green tones in here. And what I did is I went over the entire model with Athonian camo shade, like a green-brown shade, because I just wanted to give some of that green life to the sacred tree. I just don't know if it really came out as much as I thought it would. I only went with 1 shade. You may want to consider maybe mixing a green-brown shade with a bright green. Now one of the things I did like was just going over the white crystals here with the Athonian camo shade. I do like, I guess just with that white undercoat, the greens come out, much more, which that just makes sense versus over the brown painted tree parts. So, but yeah, it's just a quick process. You just want to, it's just a tint or a filter that we're going after on this. And so you do have to, watch and see where all it's pooling up on the crystals, and try to kind of dab that away before it dries too much. So now, just to bring out all this texture on the tree, I just go with I'm using a makeup brush, or very soft dry brush, and I'm using light umber. I didn't want to get too dark, too light with it, but you can see this just really brings out all the texture. You can really see the face of the sacred tree there, and the little person, his little arms and head, like a little baby Groot on there. But wanting to, of course, this is a highlight, so I'm not getting the area underneath his chest as he's bent over between his legs and stuff like that. But all the, I guess, upward facing branches and parts of the tree. I'm just going over the areas that we have the Wyldwood paint on. So I don't go over the tree parts themselves. I don't think I'd go over the crystals with this. That wouldn't make much sense. So yeah, and again, dry brushing. If you're not familiar with it, what you're doing is taking a little bit of the paint, in this case the light umber, getting it in the bristles and working it into the bristles, but then you wipe off a lot of the paint. It seems very odd. It's like, I'm putting paint on, but then I'm taking it off. But it's just to work it into the bristles, because you don't want to apply the paint like you would just with the regular paintbrush, and you're just trying to get the raised areas. Look at his arm. I'm not getting, the bristles aren't going down into the deep part in between the roots, but because it's just a light brushing, you see, and so I think it's good practice to build up. You go over an area 5 or 10 times and build up that color that you want. If you have too much paint, if you haven't wiped off enough paint, you're just going to be smearing it. All right, so here's the card art, and we're going to try to replicate a little bit of that glowing effect on his face. So I'm just taking a pure white, and going over the areas that we want to glow. And this is just to give us a new foundation. We've already painted, we've put all the browns and the green wash and stuff. So now we just want to go back. It's just a few little areas, and just, apply a new base coat. Now, I didn't get this is just a quick way to get a kind of glowing effect, and just with a couple of steps. And my photograph did not really show it too well, but the principle we're trying to do is just get a sharp, or a really drastic contrast from this brown to the green, and even the highlight of green is yellow. So we're just going to apply a couple of transparent contrast paints for the green, and then go back with an edge highlight and highlight with a bright yellow green. So we're going to see that. So just find the areas that you want the glow effect, and hit it with white. Okay, now that we have that, I just went with the bright. If you have like a green ink, this is Warp Lightning contrast paint, nice transparent, and you don't have to be exact. It's actually probably better that you get some on the sides around the white undercoat, the little white marks, so that it gives that glow. It'll be brightest where it's white, and then that bright green will kind of be around it as well. Real simple way to do that. And then I just went, because of the edges of the crystals, the wash kind of separated from that. I didn't feel that I needed to go back over that with the titanium white. So now I'm just trying to be a little more careful here, because I'm just trying to get the edges mostly of the crystals with that warp lightning as well, just to kind of show some glow from the base of the crystals. That's kind of how I saw the how it was working, or how it was portrayed on the card art. So just kind of hitting those edges, maybe a little more at the base, just as it's kind of that light is rising up. Right. What we got going on here? So a little Agrax Earthshade, just to darken it up, but still allow that green to show through. It was just too white. I probably could have, if I would have went over with 2 coats of the Athonian camo shade, may have worked, but it needed to be a little darker. And I used the Earthshade just to give it more brown versus the green, because I didn't want to wash out the glow effect, if you will. If you look on the card art, they're not like white crystals, so I did kind of want, I haven't read the lore or anything on these crystals as far as in the game, how they work. Such a neat model though. So yeah, just kind of being careful where it pulls up and wanting to filter that a bit more. And then hitting these green spots as well. It's just whatever you think is looks best. You may want just that green look versus kind of blended thing. I'll probably go back and tinker with it some more, maybe try some other techniques, but it's just a little area, and thought, this would be neat. And I'm happy with the way it is. It'd be just fine. While I'm waiting for that to dry, you can see it's still wet on those crystals. I just wanted to get the base done, went back to a large brush, and I just grabbed black brown off the rack and just watered it down so that it'll flow into, over all the basing material. And I do have a video showing how I do not only the large bases, but the small bases for Joan of Arc. That'll be coming out. So now that dried, I wanted to finish up with this bright yellow green and just kind of give it one more highlight. So just going over, the same areas that we had painted white, and then we applied the warp lightning contrast paint to. Now we'll give it that highlight. And again, you could, take this to whatever extent you want. You can start mixing in pure yellow or even some white and getting, that highlight to, really transition smoothly. But, I have so many of these Joan of Arc models that I want to paint. I want to just get them fully painted and look, really nice. And if there's one that does super well in a scenario or in a game, I can always go back and apply more highlights and finishing details. And then I also hit some of the edges on the crystals, just to give that little brighter glint or contrast on those edges. Black wash over the base to create definition, some shadows. And then we'll hit it with another dry brush. Whenever you're painting or putting a wash on these bases, you want to use a brush that you're not, you don't want to use an expensive brush, because you are going to get some rough textures, and you don't want to damage a fine sable brush or anything like that. A little light umber. And I was looking at this model because I was just dry brushing some other Joan of Arc models, and I think I did just use light umber here, but I also like adding just a little bit of ivory to lighten it even more. Or if with a large base like this, you could go over the whole thing with light umber, and then maybe come back with a little bit of ivory mixed into the light umber, just to lessen it or lighten it even more. But I think I just went with since this was a larger area, I was able to just do a pretty good dry brush here, and then we'll add some flock and some grass tufts just to break up this large base. Oh yeah, there's these mushrooms or fungus things growing all over this dude. So I just went with Acryl Shadow Flesh, which is, Citadel makes Bugman Flesh. That would be a good equivalent. It's a dark flesh color. It's kind of like a salmon, orange, pink kind of color. So just go over, there's quite a few of these, and we'll hit them once with the shadow flesh. Then we'll put just one highlight, because there's so many of them. I think I just add some orange, some bright orange into it. But we'll kind of show you where a bunch of these are. And I'm sure I missed one or two as well. Just mix it in, kind of look at it just to change up the color a little bit. And again, if you wanted to even bring this highlight up even more, you could just put a little bit of ivory or white in that. Probably a white would be okay. I don't think we'd be changing it too much. Get it turned to pink. I didn't do any highlights, like I said, on the treetops, but you could always put a dry brush in those and do something as well. And there you have it. Again, my photo doesn't, it was kind of dark. It is downward facing for the face. But I hope this video helped you and maybe inspired you to paint your sacred tree. If you have any questions or any suggestions, put them down in the comments. And if you would, like and subscribe. Have fun painting all your models.